समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
By this time, I'm quite sure you've either read or watched or heard Praveen Swami's brilliant newsbreak from Asim Munir's Field Marshal Asim Munir's speech in Tampa, Florida. He was talking to Pakistanis based in America. This was a black tie dinner, and he made several interesting, important statements. This episode of Cut the Clutter is a little bit unusual in the sense that it's a bit more opinionated than usual, in fact, a lot more opinionated than usual. I also tried to read between his lines and also to interpret them, or a little bit like our Hindi teacher would tell us while making us understand some poetry, Kavi कहना क्या चाहता है? What is it that's on the poet's mind? In this case, the poet, it's a bad description, it's not an apt description, the poet is Field Marshal Asim Munir. Also, let me alert you, as we finish this episode, I also have an important announcement to make, so please stay on with me. Now, history is the best place to learn where Asim Munir's reckless nuclear boast is coming from. It's an established fact that Pakistani military dictators aren't particularly gifted with strategic intellect, political discretion, or a long-term vision for their nation. They trade minor tactics for high strategy. It's like playing the T20 tactics in a 5-test series. In reality, they end up destroying themselves and damaging their country, Pakistan. Muhammad Ayyub, Yahya Khan, Zia-ul Haq, Pervez Musharraf, they make a straight line. Usually in journalism, we say 3 makes a straight line. In this case, there is 4. The first launched a war in 1965 and lost that war. The last chance to grab Kashmir by force, also lost the friendship of America for 5 years. The second lost half his country, in fact, a little more than half his country, Yahya Khan in 1971, Bangladesh. The third diminished Pakistan into the University of Jihad, that is Zia-ul Haq. The fourth ruined the economy, Pakistan's economy, and globally affirmed Pakistan as a state sponsor of terrorism, that is Musharraf. The fifth, now, Asim Munir, is using language more alarming than his infamous predecessors. None of them used language like this. Infamous and also miserable in defeat, dishonor, exile, or assassination, in some cases, a combination of maybe 2 of these factors, if not 3. Munir obviously thinks fate is going to treat him better. You can read his shocking rant in this Praveen Swami exclusive. You can also go back to the speech he had delivered on April 16 to overseas Pakistanis, that was in Pakistan. Within a week of that, the Pahalgam massacre took place. But then, of course, he is much more of a true believer in scriptural dogma, at least in the dogma as he has interpreted it. He is saying that unlike others, he is willing to go for broke, even if it risks taking his country and half the world down with it. To understand where he is coming from, I will pick 10 points. The first, he is attempting to restore the nuclear blackmail that has vanished after Op Sindoor. It was defied in the post-Uri surgical strikes and challenged in Balakot. So it was getting diluted, it was fading, and Op Sindoor now has buried it. From where Munir sits, if this nuclear blackmail is gone, what's he got left? This closes his options in Kashmir. We have to understand this carefully. The Indian nuclear doctrine is publicly disclosed and adheres to no first use (NFU) principle. Pakistan has no such disclosure or commitment. The clearest articulation of the Pakistani nuclear threshold was given in 2002 at the peak of Operation Parakram by Pakistan's then Director General of Strategic Plans Divisions (SPD), Lieutenant General Khalid Kidwai. He set out these thresholds under 4 heads. Number 1, space, which means significant loss of territory by Pakistan will trigger the nuclear response. 2, military, loss of a significant portion of Pakistani forces and degradation of critical forces like air power. Third, economic, which means if Pakistan is facing economic strangulation or a blockade threatening its economic survival. And political, which is large-scale internal subversion or destabilization. While this is sweeping and non-specific, it underlines an important doctrinal point that Pakistan fully sees its nuclear weapons as a loser's option, not as a nuclear deterrent against an adversary's use of nuclear weapons. It sees it as an option for the loser in a conventional scenario. If you come to the conclusion that you are about to lose conventionally, then use the nukes. Be that as it may, that is at least a rational view. So you can calculate that maybe beyond this point, if you go or if you do, Pakistans will be panicked into using the nuclear weapons. Munir is now saying something else. Munir is now saying, don't count on us being rational. So while Kidwai seems to be a rational view, however unsuitable it might be from India's point of view or destabilizing, it's still rational. Munir is now saying, don't even count on us being rational. The second point, therefore, is that not only is he reminding India but also the rest of the world that Pakistan holds this destructive power and may be inclined to unleash it, whatever the consequences. Thereby, he's trying to shift the global emphasis from the threat in the subcontinent from cross-border terrorism to the fear of nuclear war. In many India-Pakistan crises, from 1987, Pakistan has been the only side to hold out a nuclear threat. 1987, it started with Abdul Qadir Khan boasting to Kuldeep Nayyar that Pakistan now had the bomb. Go let your government know. Kuldeep Nayyar wrote a story about it. In 1999, Kargil, after that, Op Parakram, Pakistan, and on both occasions, Pakistan held out a nuclear threat, as also indirectly during 26/11 and also post Balakot. First day of a near skirmish, and the Pakistanis start reminding the world that, remember, this is between two nuclear armed nations. The third point, therefore, is that Munir is worried that India and America have stopped worrying about the nuclear dimension. He is, therefore, putting the gun to his own head, as Pakistanis often do. He's taking us back, or at least trying to take us back, to the summer of 1990, when the Pakistanis sent out a threat to the VP Singh government that they will not be using nuclear weapons in the course of a war, but that they will start a nuclear war. They will start a war with a nuclear strike. That message was brought to India from Islamabad by Robert Gates, then Deputy National Security Advisor. He later became CIA chief, that Pakistanis will start the war because India and Pakistan were in a warlike situation. Both armed forces were piled up on the borders, fully mobilized in the summer of 1990. It was also then conveyed by Sahibzada Yaqub Khan, the Pakistani foreign minister who had come to India for talks. He conveyed this to Indra Kumar Gujral, our external affairs minister, and that is something that Gujral Saab has recorded in his memoir as well. I have also written about it several times in the past, including in a long conversation with Gujral Saab. Munir is now indicating a return to preemptive deterrence, to the same idea that we will use the nukes anytime. In simpler English, it's the return of the nuclear blackmail. Which brings us to point number 4. So the fourth, he's acknowledging that Pakistan has been left far behind by India. That's where what he calls a crude analogy of a shining Mercedes driving like a Ferrari versus a dump truck filled with gravel comes in. That suppose there is a shining Mercedes driving like a Ferrari and a dump truck filled with gravel comes in and rams into it. Who do you think will lose more? So his question to Indians is, don't you understand, you Indians, you will lose more, you stand to lose more? 5, we can see the bitter envy play out. Mark the reference to that tweet we had put out. He's saying, the tweet we had put out with the line from the scriptures on how Allah sent birds to drop stones on the enemy war elephants and reduce them into burned straw. And that tweet was released with a picture of Mukesh Ambani. That was psychological warfare. The fact is that 4 decades back, Pakistan was way ahead of India in economic and industrial development. It's difficult to believe now, but that is how it was in 1985 when I first went to Pakistan. Today, it's far behind, and sliding further alarmingly for Munir. He has no solution to reverse Pakistan's slide. He's only thinking of stopping India's march. 6. He has further elaborated on his DGISPR's boast to The Economist that in the next conflict, Pakistan will begin with the east from India's eastern side. Some in India have hastily jumped to think of a collusive attack alongside Bangladesh. Doesn't sound likely. Think harder, however, especially now that Munir has elaborated on it. That's important. The East, where he says they keep their most valuable assets. I'm putting this in quotes. They keep their most valuable assets. Now we know that most of our economic assets are along the western coast and in the south. What is he talking about? In the east then, it isn't economic. What he is hinting at, I would rather not talk about. Smart people in the establishment would know much better than me. 7. He knows that the Pahalgam move backfired. Even if there is no resumption of hostilities, the apprehension over Indus waters will remain. He is reassuring his base with the threat of firing 10 missiles and getting rid of a dam that Indians built on the Indus system. He says 10 मिसाइल मार के हम उस डैम को फारिग कर देंगे. मिसाइलों की हमारे पास कोई कमी भी नहीं है, by God's grace. He knows no dam can be built overnight or in his tenure, however long. He thinks he can brag safely for now. Nobody will hold him to his boast. 8 is just a repetition of what he's been saying lately, beginning with that April 16 speech, that Pakistan was the only state founding on the Islamic Kalma after the Holy Prophet's Medina. Therefore, the existence of massive minerals under Pakistan's soil is preordained. This is the snake oil he sold to Donald Trump as well. However, my view is that Trump also cannot be so naive as to believe any of this without any exploration or any findings. I suspect he's just using Munir and Pakistan to troll India and to put India under pressure. The 9th is of the greatest immediate importance to Munir. He is signaling to his own population that they should know, if there were any doubts, that he is fully the boss now. That he hasn't yet taken over the presidency formally, it doesn't matter. Nor does it mean that he won't do so. Army chiefs always have a tenure. You can keep extending it, but it's still a tenure. And those wasting away in the line of succession can get impatient at some point. The model that's worked in Pakistan so far is uniform with the presidency. It's going to be a very big temptation for him going ahead. And the 10th should set us thinking hard even as we ridicule Munir. He's insecure. In Pakistan, insecurity doesn't just mean losing your job. You can't simply hand over to the next guy and go home to play golf. However his propaganda packages it, the world and even the Pakistani audiences have seen pictures of the damaged Pakistani air bases, and Pakistan has not been able to produce any pictures of Indian targets. Experience tells us that an exaggeratedly puffed up bully is often a recent loser, because a recent loser has to put on a brave face. That makes for a very dangerous combination in Pakistan. The final lesson, therefore, is for India. Be alive to not just the possibility, but the likelihood that he will be at our throats again. History tells us, we started with history, we are concluding with history. History tells us that every Pakistani war has been launched on us through one intellectually challenged man's miscalculation. And finally, the announcement I had alerted you about. This is about the Print School of Journalism, where we train you to become not just a journalist, but a complete storyteller. This year, we've added an exciting new module on marketing as well, because in today's world, a great story also needs a great audience. An internship at The Print is always available to our graduates, and it's a great experience. You've seen bylines of many of these interns on our pages. Many have joined us full-time. Some have joined other media organizations, and there are others. There are others very successful in their professions who've learned these journalistic skills at the Print School of Journalism to be able to communicate better in their own respective professions. And these professions range from medicine to management to banking, to law, to accountancy, all kinds of professions. If you're curious, ambitious, whether you want to choose journalism as a career, which is always a good idea, or to learn journalistic skills, or to acquire its tools to enhance your career, whatever career you might have chosen, then please enroll now. Admissions for our 5th batch are now open. Apply today at school.theprint.in.